Okay, I think as we continue with the spaces, people will start joining, and even if they miss the beginning, we will publish this as a podcast later. So it'll be good for us to start, if you want, Albert, with a little bit of an introduction of who you are, what is BDC Startup Labs, and how you got into the space, into the Bitcoin space.
Okay, wonderful. So the question, thanks, first of all, Art of Thomas and Money Unchained for making this space and inviting us up to speak. This is definitely something very valuable for the Bitcoin community. So thanks again. And your question was, what is a Bitcoin Startup Lab and how I got into the crypto space? Was that correct?
Yes, I think that would be a good place for us to begin.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So the Bitcoin Startup Lab is the creator of the Bitcoin Olympics Hackathon, which I guess we'll get into later. But the Bitcoin Startup Lab, our mission is to help people with ideas, build investment worthy startups. And there's 5 quick points on how we do that. One, we help people do co-founder matching, right? Because a lot of people come to us with just an idea. A lot of them are serial entrepreneurs, but they just want to start another project, right? And then the second way we help them is go to market. So we help them find or go to like a market segment that is strong enough to sustain a startup, and also to help people learn the science of marketing with almost zero budget, right? But beat out companies with much larger marketing budgets. So there's science behind that. The third thing is, since we are the Bitcoin Startup Lab, we help people find the best technology to build a product that is very useful to people in the Bitcoin space. So currently we have over 12 different Bitcoin technologies being taught in our program, and we're agnostic. So all the protocols and networks, they tend to work with us. The fourth thing is, hey, Web3 business modeling and Web3 network effects. What are the superpowers that crypto unlocks? And obviously, one of those like topics is tokenomics. So, do we even need tokenomics? But if you do, we do a deep dive into that. And the fifth part is about community, not just being a community of like in a community of founders with everybody, but there's also a community of mentors and investors, pre-seed investors, and some of the top accelerators that support Bitcoin companies. So if you sort of view running a startup as a baton race, we're the first leg. The second leg is accelerator. So in our demo day, we invite all the mentors, pre-seed investors, and accelerators to come and take a look at all the teams that get through the 3-month gauntlet. So that's what the Bitcoin Startup Lab does. And the results have been amazing. You guys could check us out. Click on this icon, BTC Startup Lab. That's our handle for Twitter or X. And you can learn how we can help you and build a sustainable Bitcoin economy together. Now, so that as for the second question, how I got introduced to Bitcoin, how I finally got into the Bitcoin space. So this is sort of, I guess it's funny, like hindsight being 2020. My brother, who's a lot smarter than me, he's like, Albert, you should buy some of this Bitcoin now. And this is like what, 2010? And I said, hey, this is a scam. It's a scam. Don't buy any. Anyways, fast forward about 10 years. Yeah. Fast forward 10 years. I had to eat my words. And this is, I sort of have China to thank for doing a hard pivot into Web3 Bitcoin, because at the time we were doing very well in China. We became the longest running trade accelerator in all of China at 21 cores. So we pioneered many different tools and methods to help people turn their ideas into investment ready startups. Back then it was more agnostic. We had offline, we had online, we had AA companies, we had drone companies, we even had beachwear companies. So it was very broad. But then China started cracking down on crypto. And then I was living in Shanghai. We also, because of COVID, it was like mandatory house arrest for 2 months. And now that's a scary thing. That's a scary thing. Yeah, the first week they were figuring out how to do the food supply chain, right? And like there's one food delivery per day to each building. That was scary. And then and then we got let out after 2 months. But then China's president consolidated power. So he basically wiped out the other factions. So he basically became, there was a balance in power back then, but then he effectively made himself like a dictator basically. So that was sort of the last straw. And that was one of the things that affected me directly during that process, was that they started making it very difficult for expats to hold shares in like the best industries. So one of the things was, like, as I mentioned, we did 21 cores. So we had shares and equity in many companies, but then like they started saying, hey, By the way, this industry is off limits for expats, for foreigners. So now you have to transfer your shares to a Chinese citizen, right? And luckily my wife is Chinese. Otherwise I literally would have lost everything. But that was the last straw. And that is a polar opposite of what Bitcoin stands for. Bitcoin is permissionless, is freedom, and it enables the self-sovereignty of money. Right. So, and that was the catalyst that really catapulted me into going all in on Web3. Yeah, and then a few months later, I moved back to the United States, California, where I'm from. So that's that's the story on how I got into Bitcoin and Web3.
Wow, it's such a unique and interesting story. But I can definitely see how, if you're met with the extreme of centralization, why that would act as a encouragement for you to explore
Yeah, yeah,
different kinds of technologies.
it's like almost the exact opposite, right? So it's yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's so interesting. And so that's when you decided to go back to the US. And how long did it went through between that you got back to the US and you started with BTC Startup Labs?
yeah. So I actually started researching at the end of 2021, right? I think that's the height of the NFT boom, and I kept on researching until until March, right? And I was still in Shanghai at the time, and and then we under like the whole city went under house arrest, so we had to pause our business in Shanghai, and that was the catalyst for us to say, hey, why don't we just try? I mean, we're using VPNs to get through the firewall, right? And we just, hey, why don't we just do like a full core in English, right? Before for Web3. And I was actually in Shanghai until last year, December. So from March to December. So about 9 months, I was basically on US time. So I would basically wake up at 8 p.m. Shanghai time and I would go to sleep the next day at noon. Yeah, it was crazy. I was basically my night and my day was flopped for about 9 months. Right. And it's just, but most of the stuff was not in China. So I had to flop it. Otherwise I would have missed out on all the important meetings and all the important, talks, et cetera. Right. But I mean, hindsight being 2020, although that was extremely painful to the mind and to the body, but hindsight being 2020, we are the largest and the best performing pre-accelerator now on Bitcoin. So I guess it was worth it in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that is super interesting, because I think the work that the BTC Startup Labs is doing is very important, and I'm very excited to see what kind of companies and projects come out of it.
Yes.
Sure.
You
Yes.
and me both.
Yeah.
A lot of people are watching right now. There's some pressure. The pressure is on.
True. True.
Yeah.
But I think it also shows that there's a lot of people that are very excited of what BTC Startup Labs is doing, and especially now there seems to be unprecedented level of innovation and exploration happening on Bitcoin. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, I can share some data with everyone. So last year when we were recruiting, we got 25 teams, but it was very difficult to find 25 teams. And in fact, like almost 80% of the applicants, they they applied just so we would contact them back, and then they would try to convince us to move the Bitcoin startup lab, right, to like Ethereum or Polygon or somewhere else. And I'm like, hello, do you not see our website? Like it's we're like Bitcoin focused, right? But okay, so fast forward 1 year, this year, so starting March, April, May, right, June this time, something magical happened. And 99% of first of all, we got over doubled applications. I think it was 1,087 applicants. Just we're in our second court in the middle of it. But when we're recruiting is 1,087 applicants, about double, almost double from last time. But get this, 99%, they were actually applying to come build on Bitcoin. And people were saying, hey, Albert, I've been hearing about the programmability of Bitcoin and, I've been reading about ordinals and other things that are going on the side chains, even like early indicators of ZK rollups coming to Bitcoin. So they say, hey, I'm going to give up my project on Polygon or Ethereum. And by the way, these are projects they already launched on testnet, right? So it was like a pretty big decision for them, right? But then they say, hey, but if Bitcoin is programmable, we want to rebuild it there, bigger and better. And so this is the first time that we've seen applicants say this. So we ended up starting this cohort with 51 teams, which is double last time, and it looks like we're on pace to probably double again by November. So just speaking to your point about the amount of innovation that has started, and I think in a large part it has to do with ordinals. Ordinals made it fun to build on Bitcoin again, right? And then I know like ordinals is controversial among certain Bitcoin circles, and so is BRC20, but there's no denying it. When I go to like Bitcoin Miami, et cetera, yeah, there's a vibrance in the air, and the diversity of ideas that people are applying with is literally like not even 10x. It might be like 50x to 100x. Like so much more variety now of things that people want to build on Bitcoin compared to one year ago. So yeah, to your point, like we see the data because we are a pre-accelerator. We see data at the idea stage. So like arguably is like a lot of these ideas could become the bleeding edge, right? So like early indicators, it's happening. It's happening. The Bitcoin renaissance is underway.
Yes, I will admit that I'm not an expert in ordinals, but I think it is undeniable what you're saying, that it did attract a lot of attention and a lot of people that otherwise would not be looking to build on Bitcoin. And I think overall that has to be a net win for the ecosystem at large. So
Yeah.
I think even people that don't like ordinals, they should at least be able to admit that they are bringing a lot of attention. And I think that will end up being positive.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize it, but last year Bitcoin dipped harder than Ethereum for the first time ever. So that's because it didn't have as much utility as Ethereum. So the store of value at that time before ordinals hit, the market had already spoken. They believed that Ethereum was a better store of value. And that's why Ethereum dipped less than the Bitcoin for the first time ever in crypto history.
Wow, that is something that I personally was not aware. So
A lot of
it's
people
very,
aren't.
very interesting.
I'm like a very data driven person. So I do watch these things, but ordinals saved the day. And they also saved a lot of miners, right? In the first half of the year, it generated what? Ordinals and BRC transactions over $50 million in miner fees. So that saved a lot of miners. And with the Bitcoin halving coming up soon, right? We need innovation on Bitcoin more than ever. We need to make up the difference basically for what the miners are losing, right? To really make this sustainable.
Yes, absolutely. And going back to what you said in the beginning, you were saying how when you were starting to run into the problems of the traditional system, that drove you to Bitcoin. And I think the more solutions and tools we can build on Bitcoin, then is provide us with a lot better alternatives than what we have today.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So do you want to start talking about the Bitcoin Olympics specifically?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. So you brought up again was, the reason why I shifted into Bitcoin. Like we're a agnostic pre-accelerator platform, become the longest running in China, but then we did a hard pivot out of China, and we no longer wasn't. I mean, we're agnostic within Bitcoin, but we became very focused on Web3 Bitcoin, right? And the reason for that is because just what China did the last couple of years was just so centralized, like centralized, that then more centralized, and then more and more centralized, right? Which is the opposite of, and it's like a control economy, right? And the opposite of that was Bitcoin. It's permissionless, and it gives us like a real chance to become self-sustaining and self sovereignty of our money and assets. So because of I had that bad experience, I came to Bitcoin, right? Because of Bitcoin ethos. But when I showed up to Bitcoin and I started mingling with people and meeting with people, I realized that Bitcoin was no longer the innovative place it was. This was last year, right? And the interesting thing was that, you know, we have amazing ecosystem of people who all believe the vision of a sustainable Bitcoin economy, right? It doesn't matter which Bitcoin tribe you're part of. That's the underlying like vision and mission that people are going after, right? That that one day Bitcoin could become the check and balance or an alternative system to the traditional centralized powers. However, the small group of builders, right? However this small group compared to like if you add these people up, it's still very small compared to Ethereum. I mean, at that time I did like a back of the envelope calculation. It's less than 1% of Ethereum activity. Maybe it's like 0.5% of Ethereum activity maximum, right? I'm talking about entire Bitcoin ecosystem. So at that time, I mean, it's probably maybe like 1% now, but the point is like, despite like all the people coming together still being very insignificant, almost insignificant in numbers, right? They still did not work together. They formed just small tribes that they did not get along due to some ideological differences. Although the vision was the same, but the ideological differences, I guess, did not allow people to come together, right? And as a result, the speed of innovation suffered. I saw, and as I mentioned, I saw Bitcoin price drop more percentage points than Ethereum for the first time in history last year. And in my opinion, that was the first time it wasn't actually a true story of value. At least the market didn't think so, right? And I thought that maybe if many of the tribes did not learn to work together, that maybe it would never get to a sustainable Bitcoin economy. Okay, so I came to a realization that if we want to future-proof Bitcoin and create a sustainable economy around it, then we need to fight for it. Meaning we need to work together and cross-pollinate ideas. And only then will we be able to innovate better use case on Bitcoin. And only when we have enough valuable use case on Bitcoin to the point that it becomes integrated with our lifestyle and livelihood, will we establish a Bitcoin as a true store of value and create a sustainable Bitcoin economy, right? And so also like tribes were keeping to themselves, and hackathons at that time tend to be focused on this tech or that tech, right? It's very, very, very like vertical, very siloed. So in short, I didn't see anyone doing anything to cultivate collaboration, right? And more innovation. And when I asked about this, I found out that there was a toxic culture of coming down on people for experimenting and innovating on Bitcoin, right? I found out people were bullied into not collaborating and freely innovating. And that was like just like mind-boggling to me. Like just one example, right, was Casey. He is a creative ordinals, as everyone knows. And he started avoiding public events due to the harassment, like of creative ordinals, right? Which is ridiculous. It was ordinals that in my opinion, perhaps saved Bitcoin and triggered the Bitcoin renaissance. So yeah, so so that and other stories triggered me to do something about it. And then the Bitcoin Olympics hackathon was born.
Wow. Yeah, I see the same thing that you described in my experience in working in the Bitcoin space for the last couple of years. Yeah, I do see this that you described, that we are getting into different silos, and the different communities and tribes are not talking to each other as much. And yeah, I don't think it's good for the broader Bitcoin ecosystem. And that's why I wanted to have you and BTC Startup Labs here, because I think what you're doing is very important, because it's finally putting some weight behind the idea of coming together and build on this common asset that we all share.
Thank you. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. So I want to ask you about this idea of incentivizing the growth of the let's call it the broader Bitcoin ecosystem, because we have a lot of different islands and silos and communities and tribes. And how are you thinking about incentivizing all of them to build together and not see each other as competition as much?
Well, that's that is a big question, but I think on an ideological level, uh, Bitcoin might be the best place to rekindle innovation and working together, right? Because permissionless, in a sense, to me, what it means is freedom, right? It's like true freedom. And it seems that Bitcoin, again, is the best option for building a permissionless and trustworthy. Like, I'm not saying trustless because I actually trust Bitcoin more than a lot of other things. So I want to say trustworthy system that will bring us closer to true freedom. And so I think over the years, I mean, I heard that Bitcoin is very innovative and very open to new ideas, right? And trying new things when it first started. But somewhere along the way, the greater community lost its way, right? And forgot the idea of permissionless. And so like to incentivize people, I think there are many different ways to incentivize people. Like one way is monetary. So through the Bitcoin Olympics, we have 15 different technologies now working together. Like I think it was five the first time, 5 months ago, but this time we have 15 different technologies working together. And I think one type of incentivization is of course money, right? We have over $100,000 in prizes this time. But I think beyond that, more importantly and this is probably 99% of the value of the Bitcoin Olympics, is that like, well, first off, we as a platform, we don't take any money for the operations and zero for marketing. So all these prizes go 100% to the winners. Okay. So it's completely undiluted. We do this because we believe that the more monetary incentives, which is really important for people starting at, like, at the idea stage, the more monetary incentives there are, the more builders will want to come to Bitcoin. right? So we didn't want to dilute that. That's the first thing. But even more importantly, what we represent is, you know, every single technology, Bitcoin technology tribe is understandable. Some people are very ossified and almost toxic, right? Or they're toxic. And some people are more open-minded, right? And then what the Bitcoin Olympics hackathon did was it showed all the different tribes, all the different tribes that there are open-minded people in their community and they're willing to contribute to sharing that technology to new builders coming to Bitcoin. So I think that is actually 99% of the value, right? Because these leaders from each community, they're not ossified. They're still innovating, right? And they just needed a stage to show that they also believe in collaboration. And this is exactly what they've been doing. They've been showing by example, by participating in the Bitcoin Olympics, either by providing prizes or by providing time, right, to open office hours, right? And there's a lot of communities that are coming forth and not just contributing time, but they're joining Twitter Spaces and they're in our Discord and they're just showing, hey, it's okay to have different technologies, and it's also okay to collaborate with different technologies. And I think that in itself is what we're trying to create, like a new cross pollination of ideas to create the next generation of innovation on Bitcoin. And I think that's the main value.
Yes, love it. I really like that you're creating that space for people that are open minded to come together and start sharing their ideas, and that's how we will get new and better ideas. Hopefully, you were saying before that all the other accelerator programs or startup programs will tend to be focused on only one ecosystem, which is I think is not as effective as what you guys are doing. Like I know there's a bunch of them that focus specifically for the Lightning Network, but yeah, that tends to leave a lot of people out and a lot of ideas out. And I think we are at the stage that we should not reject any ideas out of the gate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you because
Yeah.
I mean, no network right now or protocol is perfect. There's definitely like a lot to be learned from each other, right? And I mean, I don't like for accelerators, I think they serve a really important role. And just by nature, accelerators are sort of like culturally, accelerators are sort of like, okay, well, if you want to get an accelerator, you have to have a team and you have to have a protocol, like a working version of protocol, and you have to show traction, right? And you have to show that you have a clear path to generate revenue and perhaps making profit for investors. So it's understandable that they become more vertical because, you know, especially in the Web3 space, if you have something, a working prototype, that means that it's on testnet. So that means that that team has made their bed with certain technologies, right? And then in order for accelerators to help teams that are like a little bit more advanced, then they have to start also specializing and focusing, like you said, it's like either on Lightning or on ordinals or Rootstock or whatever. Like I think like it does make sense if the team is at accelerator level to go to a more like focused accelerator. Like it's like there are pros and cons. Like I wouldn't say it's like 100% good, but I feel blessed that we're one of the front runners for doing pre-accelerators, and that, hey, we get to collaborate with all the networks and we get to collaborate with all the accelerators. And that's also why we have the most mentors and speakers in Bitcoin out of any pre-accelerator or accelerator platform.
Yeah, I think that's another great value add that the BTC Startup Labs and the Bitcoin Olympics are doing. You have an impressive lineup of speakers from all the different ecosystems.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about how is the current experience of running these Olympics going so far? If you want to touch a little bit on the milestones that you've reached and the challenges that you're facing at the moment.
Yo, man. Well, overall, it's been good. It's been like, less sleep, less sleep. Let me just, I have a few notes here. There definitely have been a lot of sacrifices, right? Because our prime responsibility is to run a great start program. It's our 3-month program. That's how we make money, right? From equity and potential tokens, right? Through this Bitcoin Startup Lab. So in order to do the Bitcoin Olympics, which I mentioned, we don't take any fees for operations. We don't take any fees for marketing. So we can maximize and, complete undiluted prizes to the winners. It's come at a very big time commitment. it's not uncommon for us to be working 80 to 100-hour weeks, me and my team, during the hackathon. And this comes at a great sacrifice, as you guys can probably imagine, to personal life, and has had a massive opportunity cost. For example, in February, when we announced the first Bitcoin Olympics, I would have, like, if I could have a magic wand and someone that could run the Bitcoin Olympics hackathon for me, I would totally degen and I would be inscribing as many sub 1,000, sub 10,000 ordinals as possible. But instead, my spare time and the spare time my team was invested into the nonprofit first. It was the first Bitcoin Olympics hackathon, right, which brought together multiple Bitcoin tribes. It was about 5 at the time to support new ideas being built on Bitcoin. And it was totally worth it. And then because people came to us thanking us, saying it was the first time they had seen so many different Bitcoin technologies in one place. It means so many interesting people and like-minded people all building on Bitcoin. Right? But again, it's even though at the end people are clapping their hands and expressing gratitude, it's still really, really hard. It still is hard. For example, before the first hackathon, we had in terms of cash and crypto prizes, we had about $10,000 in cash prizes. But because of our hard work, we're lucky to have 50 speakers share knowledge and inspire founders and innovators. Also, there's a lot of complainers, right? That it is unorganized at times. And I have to admit that, yeah, it could be more organized. I do admit it. The hackathon in March and April was not only our first hackathon, right, ever that we did, but we had a couple of people working on it, only a couple of people working on it. And we're marketing and coordinating. We attract around 400 applications, 80 active participants, and over 50 speakers, right? And again, let me remind everyone, we do not take sponsorship money for operations or marketing. It goes 100% undiluted to the winners. Okay. And like, let me just go on like a one sentence tangent here. Is my advice for the complainers would be to stop complaining and come join us as volunteers to be part of the solution, and let's build a sustainable Bitcoin economy together. So this is your chance to stop complaining, like those complainers out there, right? And come volunteer, do something about the problem, like be part of the solution. And so, before the challenge, as I mentioned, it was $10,000 in cash crypto prizes, but this time we have over $110,000 in prizes. And most notably, Sora Ventures, they have the title sponsor, is completely agnostic. So you build any Bitcoin technology, you're eligible for $50,000. And ICP and Rootstock make up for the remaining 50,000, like 25 and 25,000. And we have a few thousand sponsors, but yeah, most noticeably is Sora Ventures, ICP, and Rootstock, showing tremendous support on supporting innovators and founders into Bitcoin. And probably to finish this question off, probably the most challenging thing is marketing and recruiting innovators. Right? I find that the operation part, it is time consuming, but really because we've invited so many heavy hitters and innovators and people who believe in the Bitcoin economy, and people have chipped in so many prizes. Actually, the biggest shame would be like not enough people or not more people coming in and participate, right? And so I'd like to point out that the reason why the second hackathon is doing much better is because instead of 5 Bitcoin technologies participating, we have 15 Bitcoin technologies participating in communities like the Ordinals Show, BitGod, Domo, BRC20, OCM, ICB, Rootstock, and many, many more have been contributing in Bitcoin to help spread the word. Right? For example, Rootstock spent time and money to do press releases and other types of marketing. Right? And they're setting a great example for marketing and bringing on more founders into Bitcoin. And others with less resources, you don't necessarily have to do a press release, right, or paid marketing. You could do your part by reposting on Twitter, Discord, or email. And so far, so good, because we already, we have multiple marketing channels, but the one that you can see publicly is Dev Post. So last time, I think we had 317 through Dev Post. I think we're already past like 330 right now, and we have almost 3 weeks to go here. So, a community effort. So we've blown way past the first one. It looks like if we keep on maintaining the speed, we'll have 1,000 applicants, but there's probably 20% activation rate. So maybe 200 people will be competing. If people on this call do your part and help repost the Dev Post, right? Let's make this, the more the merrier, right? The more people that come in now, the more of a chance we'll be able to build something that matters in Bitcoin.
Yes, perfect. And so far, first of all, I love your answer. I can tell that it would be a very, very difficult thing to run, especially if you're doing it with no budget for marketing and trying to keep all the the money for the cash prizes, which I think is something very, very noble. And the fact that you are getting a lot of results with that approach, that's great, right? If we can keep all the money for the to incentivize the people working on the different solutions, that's better for everyone. So thank you for all the effort that you are putting and all the time that it's been consuming. And I wanna ask you about so far, what are the ideas for the projects that people are bringing to the Olympics, and what is standing out to you, and what is making you excited?
Oh wow, all types. Last time, obviously there was a lot of ordinals ideas. We were also the first hackathon that had ordinals. But there's also a lot of experimentation around, say, AI and ordinals. And then there was somebody who wanted to use the ordinals protocol to create a decentralized oracle on Bitcoin and leveraging DLC technologies on Bitcoin L1. So that was that was pretty amazing. That was the first hackathon. And this hackathon, oh man, like there's like 20x the variety of innovation, right? Like, for example, people are experimenting with how ZK can be applied to Bitcoin, right? People are experimenting with how Nasser can be applied to different side chains. Like, of course, like there's still a lot of ordinals projects, different types of projects, and some of them are related. For example, let me shout out to OCM because they did put up a cash prize and some NFT rewards, right, for artists, right? So you don't necessarily have to be a programmer, but if you leverage OCM technology, recursion technology, you could get rewarded as an artist for launching an ordinals collection. So we're also, rewarding artists to be part of this hackathon. Now, beyond using ordinals as probably the best medium for digital artifacts, right? We are beginning to see people go beyond using ordinals as art medium. Like, for example, what does recursion, the parent-child unlock, along with thinking of ordinals as an immutable database? So if we look at ordinals from that lens, then we realize that the art is just the first 1%. Right? It's culturally very significant, and it is an important way to sort of open up the market. But there's like 99% of innovation that has not even been discovered in ordinals, and people are experimenting with that. There are obviously a lot of DeFi projects, right? People are building with ICP and Rootstock. And, I like to see that because they also have very vibrant communities and they're also supporting people with very substantial prizes. I mean, these prizes are in the right hands. You could take your idea and you could take it to turn your project into a pre-seed company, right? With pre-seed capital with a few $100,000 raised. And if you guys aren't exactly clear on how to do that, well, that's the role of the Bitcoin Startup Lab, right? So I mean, there are 3 weeks left and everyone can pitch in to attract more innovators to come to Bitcoin and empower more innovation, right? Because as it's going to be the same as last time in the sense that towards the last couple of weeks, as people start mingling with each other and finding out about what projects they're going to be doing, right? And presenting or submitting, you're going to meet new friends, teams are going to be formed. Some teams will find out, oh, someone else is already doing my project. So maybe let me try to do another project, right? And then they'll innovate something maybe even better or something different, right? So last 2.5 weeks, we have what? We have 17, 18 days left here. I think, everything I mentioned is probably just 5% of the type of ideas that are going to be coming out the last 3 weeks. Yeah, the last 3 weeks are most exciting. So now's the time to get in.
Perfect, perfect. And all the listeners, you've heard it. Now is the time to join. If you have any ideas laying around in your mind, I also want everybody in the audience to know that if you have any questions, you can always type them into the chat, or you can request a microphone. If there's something specific you want to ask Albert. And
Yeah, welcome up.
yes, yes, these spaces are always more fun when more people participate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about the different ecosystems that you are speaking about. That when you started, there were only 5, and now there's 15. I don't know if you like which ones are the ones that you're mostly focused, and why.
Um, yeah. So we are agnostic, but with that said, if we imagine the market like like the ocean. And if you're doing a business or if you're a startup founder, that means you're the captain of a ship in this ocean, right? This ocean is very vast. And in the end, you can maneuver on the ocean, but we also have to respect the forces of nature, right? Meaning that we have to respect what the market wants, what the market wants. And so if we, how about this? I'll answer your question in two parts. One, I'll list out the technologies that have contributed people in time to participate and inspire more innovation on Bitcoin. And then the second part is I could share with you maybe what some of the more vibrant communities or topics are. How's that?
Yes, that would be perfect.
All right. So I'm bringing up this list right now. So, if you guys want to follow along, you guys could go to our Discord or sign up to Bitcoin Olympics. It tells you how to get on Discord. And because we are agnostic, we have a resource and tools channel, and it lists all the participating technology tribes. Like you can find their website, you can find their documentation, you get the GitHub to get you started as a developer, and then you can even join their Discord for more help, right? So just starting from the top, ICP, Rootstock, Interlay, On-Chain Monkey, Hero and Stacks, Lightning, and then Taproot, Bitcoin Dev Kit, and if you want to build on layer one, BRC20, Ordinals, Noster, ZK, Deep Lake, Bifari, and Sovereign, right? So these are, and actually most of these have quite a bit of action, but like I said, no technology is like a one size fits all, so to speak, right? So they definitely have like their different advantages, pros and cons. So I would say right now I've been seeing a lot of movement with ICP because one, they're pretty well financed. They could give out money to founders for building their ideas on ICP, and ICP is interesting because you can you can read and write to Bitcoin. I don't think a lot of people know that, but they have a working version of that. And so that, and because of the way they've created their system is you could also bridge to other chains with ICP. So ICP is definitely pretty interesting, and people also experimenting with the intersection of ICP and Nostr and Ordinals, right? Another one that I see that is doing very well is Rootstock. As some of you probably know, Rootstock is home to the largest DeFi by TVL of I think 50 million TVL, and to the best of my knowledge, that's bigger than all the Bitcoin DeFi combined. And which just shows that, hey, we're still at ground zero. It's not like people are not late. You're actually perfect timing. It's actually even better than a year ago, right? And Rootstock they also have a lot of incentives and cash for people who are innovative and building cool stuff. And then they're also supporting ordinals, and they have a pretty good head start in DeFi. So if you're thinking about doing DeFi, that's also like a very strong choice. And then like, but although like ordinals has sort of taken a hit recently, I still believe that it's going to come back. So, OCM is helping people to innovate with recursion, right? And now that there's a parent-child that's come out for ordinals, it solves a lot of artists' problems, right? Like one, you can reduce the cost of inscription through clever use of recursion. And number two, now when you transfer your collection over from another chain, now there's provenance with the parent-child, right? Upgrade. So those are the two. I think because of these two technologies, there's going to be a flood of art collections from other chains coming into ordinals. Yeah, these are the two big complaints. So if you're creating a tool or service to help them bridge that gap, OMG, that's going to be a very, very lucrative business, right? Because a lot of people know about ordinals, but because of these two top problems, they've been on the sidelines. But now both of these pains have been taken away. It's time to onboard ordinals. So like this temporary lull or slump in the ordinals market, it'll probably last a couple more months. But after that, it's to the moon. Yeah, it's to the moon. Obviously, Hero and Stacks has always been really active. I think Lightning and Taproot assets is going to be really interesting. Bitcoin Dev Kit I think layer one stuff in general is going to be very, very exciting. Just like a side note, we noticed probably like the most interesting thing that investors want to invest in is Bitcoin L1 because there's a question mark to which side chains will win. But probably one thing's for certain is that we have to build on L1. And when it gets crowded, then side chains will really take off, right? Side chains are L2. So yeah, dive into Bitcoin Dev Kit. They've taken a lot of the pain out of developing. BRC20 is, of course, like a hot topic. Ordinals, I mentioned that already. Nostr alone isn't Bitcoin per se, but it has, because it is decentralized social network, it can be coupled with Bitcoin technologies to create very, very interesting things, right? So definitely encourage a lot of exploration there. ZK, ZK is, I think, is about to completely turn the Bitcoin world upside down. So ZK is really awesome. One of our teams is a early contributor to ZK technology. So they also won the competition up in Silicon Valley a couple weeks ago, and they're building a BRC AMM, so you could transact BRCs in a split second. They're also chipping in to help people. Hey, if you want to build ZK, how do you get started? There's almost nothing built with ZK, right, on Bitcoin. So it's like you basically could have your pick of what to build. So that's very, very exciting. DeepLake is coming through with DLC technology. So they're the first DLC API provider to focus on enabling the DeFi ecosystem on Bitcoin L1. So that's really exciting. They already have over 10 companies building with their APIs, including Liquidium, which successfully raised a seed round. That they're also went through our program. As some of you know, they're the first ordinals lending borrowing protocol, and you get native Bitcoin back, right, for your yield. If you don't, then you get the ordinals instead. So that's really cool. They enabled that as well as other companies. They're also here to share how you can use their API to basically launch your Bitcoin L1 DeFi with 20 lines of code. It's crazy. Like it would take weeks and weeks and weeks before, but now it's like literally in a few days that you get launched. So hey, I mean that's that shows that enablers are going to be very powerful moving forward. Bitfari, they have a decentralized network where you can build advertisement, decentralized advertisement, right? Rivaling, like, finally we have something on Bitcoin that could rival Google, right? And then they'll show you how to build a revenue generating app in a few days, right? So that's also, I think, low hanging fruit. And of course, last but not least, we have Sovereign, right? Sovereign, as I mentioned, is the top Bitcoin DeFi right now by TVL. And, they have a vibrant community there. I was talking to Yago the other day, over like 2 billion transactions, which shows that, and then they're opening up their platform to allow people to build on it. So if you're building DeFi and if you want like existing liquidity and users, then that's also a place that I'd look into, right? So I mean, I could keep going, but I mean, let's I think that's enough for now. I think that should be plenty for people to think about.
Yes, that is incredible. There is so much stuff that I am not aware of, and I am someone that spends most of its time looking at this. So I can only imagine that for most of the audience, a lot of this stuff is mind blowing.
Yeah, it is mind blowing.
Yeah. So thank you for that summary. I've written a lot of the names that you mentioned down, so I can continue my research after. And we have
I'm happy to make some introductions too if you don't know them already.
yes, I would love to talk with everyone that's building something interesting on Bitcoin and have them in the future spaces.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, thank you. And we have a new speaker, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Do you want to ask a question or add a thought?
Yes, yes. I had two questions. So the question was based on, you said you would appreciate more volunteers, and like, okay, kind of the process of becoming a volunteer for this project, right? Like, how does someone become that? And then the second question was just, you spoke about China, with how they cracked down on Bitcoin investing, and I'm should be going there pretty soon. Is it Bitcoin is like so exists in China, or anything Bitcoin related that anyone can look into? Maybe I can't even say this on the space, but yeah, just what's your view on both these questions?
Okay, so I heard the second question about China. I didn't hear about the one. But so let me answer the second one, and then if you could please repeat the first one after I answer the second one. So yeah, like with China, I wouldn't say like they did a 100% crackdown. You might still be able to do like 1% of what we could do, like in the US or other places. But for the most part, anything that has to do with tokenomics, launching a token, anything that has to do with like a decentralized blockchain is a no-no in China. Yeah. And, but I haven't checked like this year, but I've heard friends like buying Bitcoin on exchanges that have licenses from the Chinese government. So I think China recognizes Bitcoin as as an asset, but you're not really free to fully program on it, right? And develop decentralized applications. Yeah, but there's the loophole there is Hong Kong, right? Because obviously like Web3 could potentially be a very big, great investment, right? So Hong Kong is the loophole. So a lot of hot money is going to Hong Kong, and is actually more free from what I hear in Hong Kong than, let's say, like, us in the US, right? So, but I would always like sort of be careful about that, because like China's known for its execution, and if they make the right decision, then yeah, it gets done very quickly. But if it's like a decision that is not friendly to crypto, it also could also end things very fast too. Yeah. That's the answer to the first one. I don't know if that was the answer you wanted, but it's what I understand about China at the time being. Yeah. Yeah. What's your second question? Or actually the first question? Because you broke up, like the signal was like choppy. So please repeat the first question.
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely helpful. But the first question was like, it's about being a volunteer for the startup labs, and what's the process of becoming a volunteer for the startup labs, for the Bitcoin startup labs?
Well, just add me, and then I'll put you in touch with my team. There's plenty to do. Yeah, if we don't have to work 100-hour weeks, we prefer not to. Yeah, so I mean, as a volunteer, what you'd be gaining, of course, is you'd be meeting a bunch of very, very ambitious builders, right? There's also a lot of work coordinating with a lot of the sponsors, right? So these are the most open-minded people from each Bitcoin technology tribe. So just in general, I think that's also like, if you want to network and you want to get to know more people on Bitcoin, and you want to be at the source of innovation, right? A lot of these things are, first time ever ideas, right? Bitcoin. Being a volunteer is a great way to do that. It'll open a lot of doors, also accelerate. You can also get into Discord and learn about how to build the beginnings of a startup, right? Not just building a product for building a product, but building something that matters. Yeah. So welcome. Add me. Okay. Okay. I'll get back to you in about half an hour here. I actually, guys, I apologize. I have a meeting to jump to, like, in a minute. Is there?
Yeah. Yes. We had 1 hour, and we are at the end of that. So Albert, I just want to thank you so much for your time and for everything. And we will make this available as a podcast for anyone that has not been able to join live. So thank you.
Yeah. Likewise. And I really appreciate all the work you're putting into the show. It's not easy. The questions that we prepared ahead of time were great. It takes a lot of work, man. So thank you for doing this, and thank you, Art of Thomas, for letting me know about this opportunity.
No worries. We will be very happy to have you again, hopefully with another iteration of the Bitcoin Olympics, and to have more builders that are looking to continue to expand Bitcoin in all the different ways that it can be expanded.
Yeah, happy to come back. It'd be an honor to come back. And everyone, if you guys want to get involved, go to the chat. There's the link there to sign up. Or if you want to become a volunteer or have other questions, go ahead and DM me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And thanks again, Money on Chain.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you everyone that joined live. We're going to have another guest next week. So stay tuned for that announcement, and hopefully we'll see you there. And yes, join the Discord server for BTC Startup Labs, and let's see what comes out of all this experimentation.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you everyone for listening.
All right, take care everyone. Bye. Thank you, Alex, for joining.